What is up, beautiful people? Welcome back to another episode of the Work the Crowd podcast. I am one of your hosts, Dougie Fresh, and the other host on this beautiful show is Jacob Klucas.
What's up, buddy?
Whoa, sync time. Twinsies.
Yeah. Just got done watching an exciting finish to the US Open.
Yep. Shout out JJ Spawn.
Yep. What a freaking putt. I tweeted it. I mean, that's the type of shit you dream about.
Oh God, 64-footer to win the US Open.
Yeah. I mean,
why not? He only needed
he only needed a two putt, so I really wanted to win it. I mean, it was just to secure it.
But why not?
But I mean, yeah, why not to end it? Like, you've played especially the way he played on the front nine, playing like crap all day. Basically, you get to top it off with that
in the rain as well. He had a pretty fantastic second shot going on 18 in the rain. It wasn't raining like that the whole day.
Yeah.
Good on him.
Yeah, and thank God we're getting out of Oakmont. I mean, my God.
Yeah. So did you also see that Wyndham Clark was accused of tearing up the locker room and they're banning him from the course?
That's great.
I guess it's like I didn't know this, I guess, but the locker room or the clubhouse or whatever is pretty historic or whatever.
Yeah.
So
I mean, Oakmont's pretty historic for the most part.
Yeah, but I'm guessing like the locker room in general is goes back pretty far. So and he tore it up, like broke lockers and all kinds of stuff. So they're banning him and they're calling him for a suspension in the tour. He's always had like anger problems on the course. He was on that first season of Full Swing doing it, talking about it.
Yeah. Like
going through all that with the therapist and stuff. So it just goes to show that's how difficult that course was. It got the golfers that frustrated.
Yeah. I mean, guys like Bryson didn't even make the cut.
Yeah.
They said at the beginning of the week, they said who was it? Was it, I think it was Phil. They were talking to Phil, and Phil said Oakmont is going to favor like power hitters. Like anybody that can hit with power, this is who this course favors. So you would think, well, my God, that's got to favor Bryson. But
got to be accurate off the tee, though.
Yeah, that's Bryson's like main problem.
He struggles with that. He hits it a mile, but got to hit in the fairway here. Anyways, that's an honorable mention in our episode here. On to the main course. A couple things we're going to cover here is there's a new rule change coming in for the upcoming college basketball season. So we're going to talk about that.
Yep, that's a little appetizer for today.
Appetizer. And then the main thing we're going to talk about today is why the NBA is not as popular as the NFL. We're going to break that down for you guys.
Yeah, and there's a lot that goes into that. Don't think we expect the NBA to be as popular as the NFL, but just kind of breaking down some reasons. So starting with some NCAA rule changes going into effect. One that is two of them there's three major rule changes. Two of them for sure are going into effect for next season. One of them may be another year or so before we get it. First one is they are adding the coaches challenge to college basketball. So coaches will have a challenge to be able to use during the course of the game, just like in the NBA.
Just one?
I believe it's just one. But the other one, which is kind of a big one as well, that we've kind of all been like before, I don't understand why this isn't a rule to begin with. Continuation is now going to be a thing in college basketball. So, yeah, I mean, we're going to have the continuation rule where players, after they pick up their dribble, if they finish, isn't just going to be an on the or on the floor call anymore. Players are going to be allowed to finish through contact. And yeah, thank God. I mean, I've never completely understood why we never had that in college basketball to begin with. I mean, literally, for the most part, high school rules vary by state, so I'm not going to speak on high school because every state's different. But I mean, come on now. NBA, you play continuation. When we go play pickup ball, we play continuation. Like, why would you not?
No, I think they're trying to generalize basketball across all levels as they should. So I think this is just part of it. I think you're going to bring up that next one too.
Yeah, and then the next one, they want conference commissioners to evaluate it this year, which is why it's going to be another year or so before it goes into effect. So conference commissioners will be evaluating it this year if we move forward to 4 quarters in men's college basketball instead of just 2 halves. So,
which about time. I know it's still being evaluated, but that should go through.
So that'll be 4 10-minute quarters played through in college basketball. Again, if that goes into effect, yeah, I mean, just another thing. I think it'll help a whole lot. But the traditionalists of college basketball, obviously don't want it to happen. I don't think it really changes much. I mean, when you break into the fact of all the TV timeouts and all the refs going to the clock or to the monitor to go review stuff and everything, I mean, we basically have fucking quarters. I mean, so
I think you'll get players playing a lot harder when you only have that 10-minute stretch and then you get a full-on break. I know there'll be TV timeouts.
Well, this will allow coaches to strategize more.
And that, I was going to bring that as a
So, and on all honesty, as much as we joke about it, going to 4 quarters may benefit somebody like Calipari.
Does he coach?
It'll allow him. It'll allow him to make adjustments. And some guys that just don't like to use timeouts, and now you just get a timeout basically because it's the end of the quarter.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah. I mean, it could benefit guys like that.
I wonder how
you get to strategize more.
I wonder how this is going to change any analytics in college basketball. Because it's all based on the 2 20-minute halves. I wonder if it's going to change it any of the numbers, like when to take these last shots, like these certain shots, stuff like that.
Probably not.
I'd like to see numbers on that.
I don't know if that really changes a whole lot. I don't know. I mean, I've done both where I've played in leagues that play just 2 halves, play 2 obviously 4 quarters. I don't really think it changes much a whole lot. Like as far as in game. Just strategize when you use your timeouts, and it's the difference in halves and quarters.
I think for player,
it's more of a coaching change than it is a player change.
I think the player's endurance it's going to matter. Instead of you playing 2 20-minute halves, you would play a whole 20-minute period without sitting on the bench, even if there is or not TV timeouts. I think that will matter a little bit, maybe for more of your big guys. Your guards are typically in pretty good shape. That won't matter.
I was going to say, pretty much all high schools play quarters anyway, so they've been playing quarters their whole life.
Yeah, that's not. Is it 10 minutes?
I mean, if anything, I think it drops down to like 8.
8? I think it's 8. Anyways, I don't know. That could be the only thing I could see player-wise would be like for your big guys, they're only going to have to play that 10-minute stretch, and then they know they get a break for sure. Maybe I don't know if there's a TV timeout in between that, like 1 per quarter. I don't know how that's going to work. I'm sure they'll figure all that.
It'll probably be first.
Just like women's basketball.
Yeah, first 3 minutes of a quarter, they'll go to a TV timeout. Under 2, they'll have probably an under 2 timeout.
Yeah, so, I think you're right though. This is mostly for coaches. They're able to change stuff on the no, it's not on the fly as much. It's you break it up into quarters and
you just have a bad opening 10 minutes of a second half. All right, I got a quarter to readjust instead of just trying to figure this out on the fly.
Mm-hmm. I think that's good for men's college basketball.
So moving on to the main course of this, and it's going to take up a huge chunk of this time. Problem with this is me and Doug pretty much already did a whole episode on the phone with each other about this.
Yeah, we just started talking about it.
Yeah, and kind of just got carried away with it. But
we're like, this should be a topic.
So the NBA versus the NFL. And what really sparked this conversation was it was a post my buddy tagged me in, and it was about Adam Silver talking about, we don't embrace small market teams in the finals like OKC and Indiana right now because, just because it's small market. But you flip to the NFL side and you have, he said in his example, Pittsburgh versus Green Bay in the Super Bowl, and we embrace that. And he was like, and that's where I want the NBA to be. And I said, it's a night and day difference between NFL and NBA in terms of fandom. That's where we're at. That's like those small market teams in the NBA, are, they're just that. They're small, and the fan base is small. You've only got a certain amount of people, like I told you, I bet you the city of Indianapolis would sacrifice Pacers finals for a Colts Super Bowl. I mean, it is what
Probably.
It is. But it's if you want to get it to that point, this is going to take a lot to fix, because the NFL fans and how they feel about their team is this gap doesn't even do it benefits for NBA fans and how they feel about their team. And the biggest part of that, or one of the biggest part of that, as we talked about, is a lot of people that follow the NBA today are more player driven than team driven. They don't have a favorite team. They have a favorite player that they follow. And I know that's kind of how you watch the NBA. You're just watching for specific players.
Yep.
Now, back in the day, you had a team, you liked Chicago, But
that was really only because of like
Derrick Rose, right? But I have a team. I'm a Cavs fan, but for the most part, outside of that, I'm following players. I follow LeBron. I follow Luka. Now, luckily, they play on the same team now. I follow Jokic. I follow a lot of different players that I like to watch them play because of the player. And a lot of people are like that. Our buddy Brandon, huge LeBron fan. He's just a fan of wherever LeBron's at. That's just the way it is. Unless you grew up, pretty much your big hardcore NBA fans are all big market fans. They're Celtic fans, they're Laker fans, they're Knicks fans, they're Spurs fans, they're Heat fans, Bulls, Philly. Like they're part of a big market, and the small markets have probably maybe a little bit more of, like you would say, probably loyal, just because they feel a little bit, because of being a small market, they feel closer to their team than some of these other ones do. But the night and day difference between, let's just take worst team in the league, Jazz, Hornets, let's one of those two. The night and day difference between the fandom of a Jazz or a Hornets fan versus take the worst team in the NFL, who just had the Titans just had the number one pick. Those Titan fans love their Titans more than Charlotte or Utah fans love the Jazz or Hornets.
Yeah. And Nashville's a pretty big, actually a decent sized market.
So, and the other part, and this is where we said we did a whole episode on the phone, because we started, once our brains get going, it's
rabbit hole after rabbit hole.
Yep. So one of the biggest reasons that we found when researching this is ticket prices, the difference in ticket prices. So in the NBA this past season, the Los Angeles Lakers were the highest average ticket price, which, go figure, they're in LA, but the highest average ticket price in the NBA this past season was $702. And that's on average for the Lakers, for a Lakers ticket. If you go to the NFL, pull it up over here. If you go to the NFL, the highest average ticket price last year were the Detroit Lions, and that was $254. The highest average price in the NBA, the highest ticket price in the NBA versus the highest average ticket price in the NFL is literally a $500 difference.
That's huge.
It's a huge difference. If you're a fan, again, let's go back. So now I'll look at some of your smaller market ones. Or some even the lower cost ones. So at the same price for a Detroit Lions ticket at $254, right? That would have ranked, in comparison to the NBA, that would have ranked 9th in the NBA in ticket price. And they would have been between the Toronto Raptors at $252 and the Golden State Warriors at $259 on average.
So, and people might make the argument saying that, because it's LA, they have to charge more. Like that type of city, right? But so I just looked up the average ticket price for the LA Rams and the LA Chargers. The Chargers average ticket price is $183 this past season, and the Rams was $225. So
you're in LA, and again, when you're in LA, you have to compete with, here recently they've been mediocre / bad, but usually on a good year in LA, if you're a sports team, you have to compete with the Lakers, the Dodgers, the Rams, and USC football.
Yep.
And let's be real, out of all of those, if you told me they're all four playing at home, if we catch a random, let's just say October Lakers season just kicked off. Let's just say Dodgers are, deep in the playoffs is also a little bit different. If I got an option, if USC's on a really good year, and I got my options between a Rams game, a USC game, a Dodgers game, or a Lakers game, the Lakers are going to be towards the bottom of that.
Oh, yeah.
People are more than likely going to go, first of all, they're going to go to the Dodgers game for one. But they're going to go to the Dodgers, Rams, or USC football game first because they're more in tune with those fan bases. Lakers fans come from, and Lakers are going to fill their arena no matter what, because Lakers come, they're a worldwide team. So people from all over the country, all over the world are going to come to LA just to see a Lakers game. But as far as just those people in LA, you got to compete with that. And a $500 difference between a Rams game and a Lakers game. Yeah, I'm going to go to the Rams game instead. It's cheaper. So, and then you even look at the lowest ticket price last year in the NFL were the New Orleans Saints at $43 on average. I mean, the Saints were pretty bad last year. We all know this. And that's even in a major city in New Orleans. So,
yeah,
$43 was the cheapest seat for a Saints game. The cheapest seat in the NBA this past season was actually the team that's playing in the NBA Finals currently, and the Indiana Pacers at $82 on average a ticket. So even there, for the worst ticket or for the lowest ticket in the NFL, the lowest ticket in the NBA, it's still a $40 difference.
Yeah. And now keep in mind, though, when we talk about these numbers, they are averages, and that is going to vary. Some people might get really cheap tickets somehow, and there's going to be people that overpay. But still, statistics alone, and to compare the two, the ticket prices for the NBA are too expensive, and they need to do something about that for more fans to even want to even come to a game. Let alone, we haven't got into yet about the NBA as a whole in itself. So
yeah, and I mean, so that's the other thing with the NBA is, a lot of people view NBA players as prima donna players, so they can't relate to that. The people that go and work 9-to-5 jobs and work their ass off don't relate to the prima donna. They get breathed on in an NBA game and they get a foul and they're begging for a foul call. They don't relate to that. They can relate though to the NFL player and the offensive lineman, that bust their ass and work hard and pack their lunch and go to work. So and aren't afraid to take hits. That's more relatable. So I just don't basketball in general with the whole you can't touch superstars now. I mean, that's always been a thing. Don't get me wrong. You want to protect the superstar. But there's been a miles difference between the way you could back then and what you can now. And I think that plays a huge role in the way people view the NBA versus the NFL now. And again, there's also a difference between the way you could sack the quarterback, back then versus now as well. But you're still getting hit at the end of the day.
it's still,
It's still very physical, very contact, doesn't matter.
Yeah, any player on the defense at any given moment could go out there and just destroy the quarterback. They're going to get a penalty called, but they could do it. But yeah, then you have the load management stuff in the NBA, and that's a big problem. And this kind of leads into the piece of it where the NBA lacks, and it's not its fault, I guess, in general, because in the NFL, the team only plays once a week. So there's a lot of anticipation that leads up to it. Each week for a fan to want to watch a game. Whereas the NBA, your team could be playing 2, maybe 3 times a week because the season's 81 games long. So they need to decrease the game amount. I think we talked about that for fans just to get more out of the players, because these players are going to they're going to play more games if they have to play less during the season. So, I mean, that's one big thing they need to change. And then, I don't know, man, it's just not as big, I guess. I don't know. The NFL is it's just a different monster. Even revenue-wise, the NFL had what in 2023-2024, that season was $23 billion for the NFL, and NBA was 11. So that's still a huge difference in money. But I guess the kind of is a monopoly of its own with the NFL. I mean, they own Thursday, Sunday, Monday. I mean, during that season, games are more accessible. That's a big deal.
Yeah, because you got to think about it. NFL, 1 game a week for your home team. So you either go see them that week, or you have to pray you get a ticket some other time during the year. Potential NBA game at an affordable price. Well, we didn't go tonight, but Thursday night they're back. They're at home again. We could just go then. It's fine.
Yeah. Now going to the game, but even just watching on TV, I feel like that hurts the NBA because they're not as accessible as they should be, probably. I mean, the NFL owns the TV media with that stuff, because you won't be able to. I mean, unless you buy a package, certain packages. I mean, you wouldn't be able to watch all the NBA games with you if you follow the team.
That also plays a huge. I mean, it's the NFL the same way. That also plays a huge role in it, as well as how I can watch these games.
Yep.
I mean, I feel like it's harder to watch an NBA game than it is the NFL.
Hell, even baseball. I think it's easier to watch baseball games, isn't it, than it is NBA?
No, 100%. And so, but in terms of fan turnout, and we actually found an interesting stat about it. If you go back since 2022 at least, and really probably out of the last 25 years, it's been 20 to 22 of the last 25 years. The Chicago Bulls fans have been top 3 in attendance in the NBA.
Yeah, shout out both Bulls fans.
In terms of, how many people show up per year total for the home games. And again, they rival, the number rivals NFL. But again, the biggest difference is you have anywhere between 40 to 42 home games for that number to get to. So last year it was 825,659 for the Bulls. Okay. So you have 40, they had 41 home games last year to get to that number versus the number one team in the NFL last year was 836,749, which was the Dallas Cowboys. But they have 9 games to do that.
Yeah, and their stadium holds a lot more, like a ton more people.
But still, way less games to get to that
way
number.
less games, yeah, for sure.
So, yeah, and I mean, at home, at home. So it puts them at an average of 92,000 to show up. So, I mean, and it's on average last year, they averaged total between home and road 82,000 per game.
You're talking about the Cowboys?
Cowboys.
Yeah. Well, Cowboys fans are
all over the place.
Yeah. They're loyal fans.
And then surprisingly, actually, we dove into this as well. The Giants were second in the NFL last year in attendance. As bad as they were, the team with the number 3 overall pick still had fans showing up. Again, New York, big part of that.
Yeah, the people that live in these cities like New York, LA, Chicago, Boston, they treat sports quite different in those areas, and that matters.
Here's another funny part. You know who the worst team in the league last year in attendance was?
In
the NFL? In terms of total number?
Was it the Chiefs?
Yep.
Yeah.
The back-to-back Super Bowl champion were, at the time, worst in the league in attendance in Kansas City.
And you would think with all those Swiftie fans now, they'd have more people going.
Yeah. And the worst team in attendance last year for the NBA was the Atlanta Hawks, which kind of shocked me because, again, Atlanta's
a pretty big city.
But I mean, the ticket prices alone. So one, you got to shorten the season, and I'm not asking you to shorten it like, anything major, let's cut it from 82 to, 65, 62, cut it down by 20. Still a lot of games, but just cut it down a little bit. You can start a little later so you're not running into as much NFL and college basketball or college football and baseball.
Mm-hmm.
You can start around, Christmas time and pick up. And I think just by also cutting down the games, I know a lot of people don't want to cut the games because they're going to go, well, Jordan and them didn't have to cut down 82 games and they had to play it. Why can't everybody else? You know what you signed up for. Yeah, but this is also way different. Yeah, I've said this before. Times. I've also said this before. The difference in the amount of games kids have played before they even step foot on the court in the NBA versus the amount of games you played back then is way different. So you got to think these kids are thrown in AAU tournaments, starting at 10, 11, 12 years old, are playing in the AAU circuit, potentially 4 to 5 games a weekend and are doing that, almost every weekend up until, not to mention, then they play middle school ball, high school ball, whatever they play on the side pickup wise, it's just nonstop for them. And sure, they do it to themselves, obviously. But by the time they get to their rookie year in the NBA, the mileage on their body is already taken a huge toll, which is why you see also a lot of, young players that don't really get a chance because they're already injured. So, but you shorten that. I think you also fix the load management problem in the NBA. You shorten the season. Now you're not playing as many back-to-backs and everything. So now you don't have to worry about, if LeBron comes to town, is he going to sit? Is he not? When Kawhi comes around, is he going to sit? Is he not? You don't have to worry about that as much because it's a shortened season. You're not playing, back-to-backs. They can spread out the games throughout the week instead of having to clump them all together.
If you start later, though, wouldn't you still have to play them?
Well, that's what I'm saying. You don't have to necessarily start like late, like the short and expanded seasons that we had, like the year after the COVID year, And then when we had the lockout in 2011, 2012, where they started on Christmas Day for those. I think you could start a little bit before. I think you can kind of start right around Thanksgiving, maybe a little bit before that. They usually start on Halloween, the week before Halloween. But I think you push that back, to late November, right at the beginning of December. And I think if you play 60, 62 games, you could probably still average out. And here's the other thing, it's not necessarily a bad thing if you're going to start later to push the season a little later. So we don't necessarily have to have the NBA Finals end in June. Like, we can push this a little forward into July. There's, baseball still early going in the season for them. And yeah, early going because they're playing 182 games. That's another thing. But, you're not interrupting anything with the NFL. You're not interrupting anything with college football. So you kind of bridge the gap a little bit closer in terms of professional basketball and then into professional football. And it also opens up the door for, college kids getting ready for the draft. They have a little bit longer to get ready.
Yeah, that'll probably open up more TV stuff too for them.
So, I mean, think about these, think about ESPN and ABC and all that. And, well, not so much TNT anymore because they won't be having, but all these, they're, no offense to baseball, but they don't want to just show baseball all the time.
No.
If late in June, early July, they could still be showing NBA playoff / NBA finals, they would love to do that.
Yeah, they'd be fiending to pick that up.
So you could push it back a little bit farther, go into July, then you go into like maybe the early parts of July, then you have the rest of July, August, September, October, November, and then you start your season.
Yeah.
So
now one of the negatives I see for this is for the teams itself. If you decrease the games, you're going to make less money. So they'll have to figure out how to make up that revenue somewhere, which it might be they make tickets even more expensive. That could happen.
Yes.
If they did something like that to make it more watchable.
So here's the thing. Like, I understand, like we talked about, I understand LA, the tickets have to be a little bit, more expensive than.
Yeah, your market's different.
So your market does matter, but listen, it doesn't have to, for your, let's find the first like small market here on the NBA as far as ticket prices. So first small market on this list would really be like in terms of like, and I'm not talking about small market in terms of like small city, but just small NBA market would be Phoenix and Milwaukee here. And they were 4 and 6 in the league in ticket prices. Phoenix was 343 on average. Milwaukee 316. You're telling me you can't lower that a little bit? Like, come on now.
I mean, I guess they could maybe make it up in like concessions somewhere. Like if you have more people coming to the games and you're paying because they're paying less per ticket, you might sell more in alcohol or food.
I would rather have. I get it. I understand. I understand how money works. I get it. But at the end of the day, I'd rather put as many butts in the seat as I possibly can.
Yeah, you go for volume.
Yes, you can make that up elsewhere. Whether it be concessions, jersey sales, anything, just anything else. I mean, we're talking, again, the average ticket for a damn Washington Wizards game last year, Doug, was $172. Who in their right mind is paying $172 to go watch the Washington Wizards play basketball?
Not me.
Okay. I mean, come on now. Utah Jazz, $218. Them people in Utah don't have anything to do but go to Jazz games. Who's spending $218 to go watch them play and be bad?
Well, if they're watching sports, maybe, but I feel like Utah's got a lot going on.
To go watch them be bad, though?
No, I'm saying to watch basketball, yeah.
Yeah.
Watch sports.
Like, come on now. Like, the Indiana Pacers, again, lowest ticket sales in basketball last year. And the Oklahoma City Thunder were 28th out of 30. Your two NBA Finals teams, who honestly, when you're watching their home games, I mean, they have electric crowds. Why? Because they can fill the stadium because people can afford to go.
Yeah, sure.
I mean, yeah, I would rather have as many butts in the seat. I would rather be able to say that if I'm the Lakers, I was able to lower my ticket price from $702 to, let's just say even for LA. Dropping it down to like $400, $500 would be a massive like difference for people in LA. Okay. Even if you're able to do that, I would rather be able to say I've sold out the stadium almost every game this year than I am to say, well, we made as much money as possible. The more people you're able to draw, the more people are able to talk about, I had such a great experience there. And that's how you get more and more diverse people and everybody to show up and love your team. It's more, I never would have imagined until we looked this up, Doug, that it is more affordable to go to an NFL game than an NBA game.
I mean, college sports is kind of like that too, though. I mean, I think it's more expensive. Like, let's just take Louisville, for example, because I know, but it is more expensive to go to a Louisville basketball game than it is a Louisville football game. I mean, I don't know.
I know that.
Yeah, you do. I don't know why that particularly is, but that again, the fans, Louisville fans here have also complained about ticket prices for basketball games.
Well, part of that is because, and this is a topic for later, they built an arena that they couldn't afford, and now they don't even want to play in it. And
well, it wasn't. Yeah. It was the city.
So now you have to make up this money somewhere, and they're going to make it up.
The city had a big piece in that too, though.
Yeah.
Anyway, so we're talking about maybe they would have to make up the money somewhere in the NBA. So let's say, all right, you start the season later, you somehow get more TV money, TV contracts. The NBA gets more money from that. Well, they share a significant piece of the TV money with the teams. So if not only can you make it cheaper, you get more butts and seats, but then also you start later and there's less games in the season and you have more TV money, that could equal out and people can watch the games more from both sides. You go in to a game, you're paying less and you can watch it from your house when it's more accessible on like an ESPN, something like that. So
now the other side of these things, and what does make it hard to go to it, obviously outside of ticket sales, is the new additions of AI and virtual reality. You've got people that can buy their VR headsets and pay way less money than $700. Not on the VR headset, but for the subscription they're paying for to make it look like they're sitting courtside at a game.
Yeah, I don't know how big that is right now, though. I mean, it's there, but I don't know.
And the other thing that's big is the restaurant the restaurants that are in LA and Dallas. I know there's another one. I don't know where the city's at, but you know what I'm talking about.
Has the immersive screen.
Yeah, that's another big thing.
I mean, it's kind of like a VR type headset looking thing.
Yeah, but
it looks like you're
but you get to go sit around at a restaurant, eat food, and just it's almost like you're at the game.
Yeah, I mean
at the end of the day, you can make up. You can make up. Now, I'm not going to sit here and crunch numbers and try to find where you can make up because I'm not doing that, and two, I'm not skilled enough to do that right now. But you can find money elsewhere to make up for lowering your ticket prices. You got to make going to the NBA. You got to make going to an NBA game more affordable. Because here's the thing: even if people are paying, let's pick a random team. Let's go Chicago. Let's just say average ticket price in Chicago last year was $218. If you find somebody that's spending $218 on a ticket, guess what? That's less and less money they're spending at the concession stand and in a team store as well. So that's another thing where maybe you make it up is I lower these prices. People can afford to come buy a jersey while they're at the game more. So that's where you're making up a little bit of your money. People can afford to come and buy more at the team store. They can buy more at the concession stand. I mean, there's a lot you can do. I mean, hell, go to college. Doug, Coastal Carolina's giving out free concession stands this year?
In what?
In football. You're allowed, with your purchase of your ticket, you're allowed free concessions, which is up to 3 hot dogs, 2 soft drinks, and a beer.
What?
Yeah. I believe
you get butts and seats.
But yeah, again, I would rather be able to say myself, if I'm an owner, yeah, you want to make as much money as possible. I get it. But I'd rather be able to say we sold out damn near every game this year. I think that's more of a flex than it is to say, oh, we made the most money.
Yeah, but, there's also politics that go into this, too. I mean, when you have all these, because these teams have multiple owners that are in a lot of different realms in different industries, there's a lot of politics that go into a lot of this shit. So that's stuff that we can just guess upon because we don't know the ins and outs of it.
Real quick, that Coastal Carolina thing. So yeah, they provide. There is no limit on how many times a fan can visit the concession stand. You can. The maximum items you can get per visit is just 4.
That got abused over the season, or is this new for this?
This is new. This is starting next year.
Oh, there's gonna be. They're gonna run out of stuff. Is what'll happen.
They're gonna have to double their staff.
Yeah, they're gonna get more people coming.
Again, more butts and seats. Because guess what? Now, here's that other thing, and I'm not saying that NBA teams and all that need to do this, but if I offer free concessions, now I can't afford to keep my ticket price at where it's at because they're willing to spend. Oh, I can get free concessions and whatever. And I was already going to spend up to $300 total in ticket and concessions anyway. So sure, I'll spend the $300 on the ticket.
I don't know about that. They couldn't do that at that level.
No, that's why I said no, not the NBA. But I'm saying you can do certain stuff. There is wiggle room everywhere.
Yeah, you can run promotions and stuff.
And again, you lower ticket prices, more that can be spent in team stores, more that can be spent on concession stands, more that can be spent on online team stores. A lot of stuff, a lot of places you can make up that money.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know.
But really, at the end of the day, that's the biggest thing. It is more affordable to go to an NFL game than it is an NBA game. And that's really 60 to 70% of why NFL fans love their NFL team more than NBA fans love their NBA team. On top of NBA is more player driven than it is in the NFL. And sure, people have players they follow in the NFL, but they're, like you're a Lamar fan, but it's Colts over everything. So, I mean, it is what it is. Again, there's more players to follow. I mean, there's more players following the NFL than the NBA, but there's more star players per se to follow in the NBA than there is the NFL.
Yeah.
So,
and then, typically
it's easier to follow individual players.
Well, typically those players that you're following, those superstars, are getting more TV time than these other teams. That probably hurts too when there's not superstars spread out as much anymore.
So, yeah, I mean, just make the NBA a little bit more affordable. It's really your biggest thing. And you got to start there and then work your way when it comes to trying to make your fans love your sport the way the NFL fans love theirs.
Well, you guys let us know what you think about this.
Yeah. If you're an NBA fan, if you like the NBA more than the NFL, if you're
one of those Chicago fans,
yeah, you're one of those Chicago Bulls fans. Let us know. What do the Chicago Bulls? We'll make that more specific a little bit. If you're a Bulls fan that watches this, what do the Chicago Bulls fans or Chicago Bulls do that puts you in the arena? And maybe other NBA teams need to follow suit. Now, we also said that's also a little bit of the Jordan effect.
History, for sure. Yeah. But still, they've been really consistent.
Yeah. So what do the Bulls do that makes you go to a game? For these other teams, 76ers. What do the 76ers do that make you go to a game? So, and if you're an Atlanta Hawks fan, what makes you not want to go to your game?
Why are you not going to games?
Because even for them with ticket prices, they were 22nd in the league in ticket prices at $136. So can't say it's really ticket price. So what is it?
They like the Braves more.
Maybe Falcons. So what is it? And then NFL, just keep doing what you're doing.
Yeah.
I
think you guys are fine.
You all don't need to change ticket prices. You don't need to do anything. Keep doing what you're doing. You're good.
Yeah. Actually, give us more games.
Yeah. Well, we'll take another. We'll take
one less preseason if you want to do another regular season.
Facts.
All right, guys. Well, I think that pretty much sums it up for us on this episode. Like, comment, subscribe, and click that notification bell. Helps us out. Peace.